Hello and welcome to the Slow Ready Podcast, a casual drive into the music and culture of Goose. I'm Mike.
And I'm Alex.
And we are back with another exciting episode after way too long of a hiatus, where we are going to recap Goose's recent run of shows from Boise, Idaho, through Greenwood Village, Colorado, and all the way through the All Good Now Music Festival.
You missed a lot.
It's been a minute. As usual, just best way to keep up with us is on our socials at Slow Ready Pod. Pretty much anywhere you can be on the internet, we are there as well. You can also email us at slowreadypod@gmail.com. And just some additional housekeeping, going to get into a few news and notes, as there are quite a few since we were out for a little bit here. So in our first segment, Hot Tea, I'll kick things off with there was a very good Billboard news article on Goose last week. It's a good read, short and concise, but some good quotes and nuggets from the band on where they're currently at as a foursome, and just the chemistry that they're feeling on stage through this tour. Did you get a chance to read that, Alex? Any high-level thoughts on that article?
I did get a chance to read it, and I thought it was a pretty good, high-level overview of the band. I think for people who aren't as familiar as we are, I think it was probably the best of these articles I've read lately in terms of just kind of getting the information out concisely and a few nice little nuggets about, where the band's at, like you said, chemistry wise.
Yeah, some good juice journalism. Imagine that.
You don't want to go back and read our favorite articles by the Rolling Stone?
No. It's the article that shall not be named. And then on a high level, there's, as per usual, Goose is just killing it as far as getting their best content up onto YouTube. So they've got night 2 of Denver, set 2 up on YouTube. They kind of did that in lieu of getting to perform at Bonnaroo, which tragically was canceled. And so definitely all of our best to everyone that made that trek. That obviously was brutal, but Goose trying to make things up to us a little bit by uploading one of their better sets here recently. Also have the second longest jam they ever did, Rosewood from Boise. But by far the biggest news in our world is the new fall tour date. So, Alex, you want to tell them about the additional dates that Goose has added here recently?
Sure, and as we record this, they just dropped the dates today. There had been some inklings of this first date for a while, and it's finally officially confirmed by Goose. On September 14th in Burlington, Vermont, at Waterfront Park. They're going to be playing a show out there. I think it's really cool that they're doing this show, and hopefully a lot of people can get out there and go support. And then they also announced those mysterious TBA dates that were on the initial fall tour announcement. So October 2nd and 3rd, they're going to be playing the new Riverfront Amphitheater in Richmond, Virginia. 2-night stand. They're really promoting the hell out of that venue with a lot of artists going there. And then big news for me, on the 4th, Saturday at the Man in Philadelphia, hometown show. We were wondering if this was coming. It's going to be a great time. So hopefully anyone who is listening is already able to get their ticket requests in as we drop this, hopefully before the at least public on sale. But yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Absolutely. And I may be trying to join you at the mandate, so we'll see.
Oh, yeah.
Just because we know great things happen for Goose at the Man, so I don't know if I can miss it again.
I mean, it wins Jam of the Year every year in Philly. It's just going to be another contender.
Going for a three-peat, so I think I got to be there. And then last but not least, so humbled and grateful by this, want to offer all of our most heartfelt thanks to Jenny's Ice Cream, who was so kind. They not only shipped us Goose's new ice cream partnership with them, Goose Tracks, but yep, and my co-host here is showing it off on camera. We'll probably release a clip of that at some point, but they also sent us a pack of their best summer flavors. So I'm already a humongous fan of Jenny's. I think they make the best ice cream. And if we were to ever have a podcast ranking Jenny's ice cream flavors, it would be harder than ranking Goose songs. But yeah, we want to try Goose Tracks live here on air. So thanks to Jenny's.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and do that.
We haven't tried it yet, just to have a live reaction. I still got the seal on it that says flavor is everything sitting on top.
You can tell I have not taken a bite out of this as well. I really wanted to all weekend long. It's been driving me crazy. So excited to finally do this.
As at All Good Now, and all I could think about was this ice cream.
Yeah, psychotic.
All right. Cheers, buddy.
Yeah, man. Cheers.
That is good.
That's
Right
that's pretty
away.
fucking outstanding.
Yeah, right away you get hit with just like that very fresh berry flavor.
Yeah,
And then the chocolate's just like a nice little treat at the end there. I love it.
and it's so smooth.
So smooth. I haven't had Jenny's in so long. I haven't had it in so long, so this is a treat. And this will be gone by tomorrow now. So
Yeah, now that the seal has been cracked, it's definitely gone by tomorrow.
thank you very much to Jenny's again. That was so kind of you to reach out, and we're going to be buying the heck out of this, I think.
Absolutely.
Both because it's delicious and because it's goose.
Yeah, and I think it goes really good with the new album.
Oh, yeah. And shout out to the amazing artwork on this carton as well. It's Brian Blomerth who did the album art for EMG, and this is just more like that amazing art style, and some of the familiar characters from the album art are all over this thing. So pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, that was fucking outstanding.
Absolutely. It does not get much better than that.
All right, dude.
So
let's get into some shows.
Yeah. So Goose is on the road. So that's actually all the news and notes. So with that, let's get into the Flowdown, which is a whole heap of shows to recap now that we've got to catch up here for y'all. So going to start off going all the way back to June 1st. Golly, we're going really far back. Goose at the Idaho Botanical Garden, Outlaw Field. You want to read off here the set, Alex, and then we can kind of get into it?
Yeah, let's do it. This is a monster set list to read off because it had literally 11 songs in the first set to read off, if you count the back and forth with the sandwiches and everything. But we start off with a Pancakes opener in set 1, then California Magic, Hot Love and the Lazy Poet, Lead Up, My Mind Has Been Consumed by Media, making a comeback, first time since October-ish, I want to say. Then a Western Sun, into Interlude 2, into Jive 1, and then close out the first set with a Yeti Pumped Up Kicks Yeti Sandwich. And then set 2, we get real jammy here. So we get a Madhuvan opener, into Rosewood Heart, into Electric Avenue, back into Madhuvan to kind of close out a second set sandwich there with an encore of Same Old Shenanigans. So a lot to get into here, Mike. Where do we want to start?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you kind of alluded to, very songy first set, but I really like starting off with like 2 EMG songs early on here, just kind of keeping that momentum. I really just love Where My Mind Is At as a song, and we'll kind of get into that more as we go through this next bit of shows here, but my mind is just really having a moment. I feel like Trevor gets to shine on each and every one of them. And I think what stands out to me the most about this set 1 is this just kind of nonstop energy and an interesting mix of songs from start to finish. That's kind of my big takeaway here from the set 1.
Yeah, I was just doing a quick scramble research there to see if I was right about My Mind Has Been Consumed by Media. It was actually played in Cincy, I forgot. So early November, but still, that's 7 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really nice to see it come back. To your point, I kind of like that they've been doing this to appeal to a lot of like these newer fans that are coming in, where they're doing like a songy first set and then they're doing like jam heavy second set, so you kind of get the full scope of what it is like to see the Goose catalog at a show. Like maybe not the entirety of it or anything like that, obviously, but you kind of get a good sense of like their songy songs and then their jammy songs. But yeah, I thought it's interesting that they've been going to this formula of opening a show with like a big jammer like Pancakes, but keeping it kind of concise, which part of that breaks my heart in a little bit, but also like I totally am kind of here for it. It's just like, let's hit everyone with a punch and then try to get into some more songs to kind of like appeal to that part of the crowd before settling into the jams and like letting the vibe settle for the night. But really the first major highlight, and you mentioned it again, we're going to go back to My Mind Has Been Consumed by Media. It just leaned into a totally new arrangement here. Nice jam to open it up, going heavy on the David Byrne territory, heavier than it already was. So I really love the quirky, funky, pulsing vibe of this song, and then the intro just added to that. Seems like a great time.
Yeah, definitely. And To your point, I think that there's a lot of ways that I can walk away from a Goose Show happy, and this is kind of like another example of that. They can go song heavy in set one and jam heavy in set two. That works for me. They can sprinkle in, 1 to 2 mid-sized jams in set one and then go a little heavier in set two. Or they can do shows, which there's an example of it later here that we'll get to, where everything's just kind of mid-tier length, but you get a lot of interesting improv there that way as well. So at the end of the day, I'm just happy that they're mixing it up. And before we move on from set one, I do want to just call out it's kind of a little one, but this Western Sun Jam, it does have a nice kind of jazzy shuffle feel. And I thought that Peter and Rick did a good job of playing off each other and creating like fun spats of tension and angling against each other. It's not going to make like a playlist or anything like that, but I'm always here for a Western Sun Jam, and I thought this one was pretty decent.
Oh yeah, that was my other highlight I had marked. I just kind of was waiting to talk about it with you. It's nice to see it more consistently getting taken out for a ride, even if it's a short 6 or 7 minutes of jamming. It's just been kind of a regular basis of hearing at least a minute or two tacked onto the end compared to that long drought of no jammed out Western Suns we had for a while there. And then that transition into interlude 2, it's one of those moments where you hear it and you're like, duh, this is just like seamless. Like, of course they were going to do this, but it just wasn't on my personal radar until I heard it here. And I thought that was a treat. And going into Jive 1, it's obviously like the natural progression there and what we normally see. But I thought this run was very, very fun. And we got a lot of messages through the week. This is hard to remember going back 2 weeks, both of us getting the black lung like a few days apart, and then just like having to miss our normal recording cadence. It's hard to think back, but there were quite a few messages that there was a lot of first timers going to the show, and I think that this is like a good set to kind of rope people in and not like overwhelm them with the jams at first, and kind of be like, oh, you got to see a bunch of songs at your first show, and you got to see some cool transitions, and then you'll get to see what we really do in this set too. So great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So you alluded to it. This set two has a monster hiding in plain sight. Why don't we just get right into it? Any thoughts here on the Madhavan to start off, or the elephant in the room, the second longest jam Goose has ever done, this Rosewood here? What are your thoughts on the beginning of this set two?
So Madhavan, when you hear it to open set two, you get really excited, and then you kind of hit the natural start of the jam, and then suddenly it's Rosewood Heart, and you're like, oh my gosh, are we gonna do another short jam or like lack of jams with these jam vehicles song set here? And no, we just get a 39-minute version of Rosewood Heart. Although we'll get to it later. I don't think it's actually 39 minutes. I think it's 38 minutes. But anyway, always happy to see Rosewood on a set, but then you get a 39-minute monster, like by far and away clearing the bar for the longest version of the song. It's something pretty notable, especially for this tour where we haven't seen a lot of long jamming going on. It's been a lot more of these compact, like 17 to 20-minute songs. Maybe every now and then you get a 23, 24-minute thrown in. And yeah, I think this is just like a shock to the system, and one of those jams where it doesn't explore a lot, but to Goose's credit, they've been kind of in this mode where if they're feeling a vibe on a jam, they'll just like lock into that space and then slowly expand on it. Something has clicked since like that. This sounds nothing like this, so I'm not trying to compare the two jams, but they've locked into something since like that Goose Miss Hunger site where they'll just like expand on a concept, and they're just so good at like building up the same kind of concept slowly and then getting into this crazy barn burner explosive space by the end of it. And this is no exception. It's like 23-minute build on the back half of this 39 minutes. That's just like absolutely insane head banging madness.
Yeah, totally. And I'll just start off saying, as far as my thoughts with this Rosewood go, I'm always happy when Goose wants to jam for this long, whether it works for everyone or everyone hates it. I always believe good stuff comes from it, either in the moment or later down the road for them. And to your point, if you need multi-section jams to be totally happy, you may find this a little bit lackluster. I mean, it really is pretty much just 2 sections and one really long main section. But I still found a lot to like, especially as they get to the end where they actually start getting a progression together that actually works for them, and Peter's going crazy on like these dark synth tones. I mean, I'm not sure that they ended up accomplishing everything they or others might have wanted to with so much time spent in two locations, essentially musically. But man, oh man, we keep saying it, but the chemistry on display between these guys right now is just off the charts. And it's mesmerizing for me, at least, to watch them move the music to different places and how in sync they are in picking up on that when one of them adds something new and just being able to follow seamlessly and then add another element and another element. And they just, the chemistry and vibes are just out of control. And the peak on this thing, my God, it's just, it's everything you could want from a peak, and it's earned. So while there's some like maybe potholes along the way, it's a really good result. And I think it's always great when they stretch their legs like this.
I honestly wouldn't even describe it as like potholes or anything. I think it's just they caught a wave and they rode the vibe, and it just was like somewhere that they were locked into. And honestly, I was too. And I, listening back, I am. It's like the fastest 40 minutes of your life when you listen to this thing. Honestly, life hack. Like, we went to another concert just after this Boise show, and like it made the drive like feel like 12 seconds long listening to Rosewood each way. It's just the fastest jam ever for how long it is. But yeah, I also hinted at it real quick, but after they hit that like insane peak, it breaks down and it goes into this, like, people said it sounded like Echo of a Rose section where they're slowing it down to bring it to Electric Avenue. It's fucking Electric Avenue. I don't know why they counted that last minute as
Yeah.
as Rosewood. They're just playing the chords to Electric Avenue a little faster than Electric Avenue to take it down to that pace. But you know, it adds to the lore of the longest Rosewood, so it's I'm just joking around a little bit.
Yeah. No, it's all good. And last thing I'll say on this, we talked about this in the episode before, but this Rosewood was very much more of that like funk on crack on speed on Adderall that we've been talking about, that we saw like with the Green River and Sam Fran. But it's very much a new space for the band, and it's just, it's, I don't know, it's goosebump inducing. And to your point, they go into Electric Avenue, which is always a fun time, but this one has particularly high energy that they seem to be just riding and continuing that wave from the Rosewood through the Electric Avenue, and then into the return of Madhavan. And I mean, it's just, it's an absolute roller coaster here.
Yeah, and I think part of us being really sick, it sucks to have like not the immediacy of going back to the show sometimes, but having a little extra time to listen to these shows like one or two more times, more than we normally would, has kind of been a little bit of a blessing for something like this Boise, because I enjoyed it in the moment going into this Electric Avenue. I thought it was really cool, like a really cool idea to get, especially with this newer crowd, like a song they're familiar with after a jam like that. But also, it really did kind of rip. Like, it went to some places I had not heard on an Electric Avenue that comes to memory at all. And then naturally going into that Madhavan sandwich, like, it was just seamless and just rip roaring to the finish line. I like that it kind of like cooled things down while also being a familiar tune for a crowd that was not so familiar with all the Goose tunes, and then get right back into the ramped up blistering energy that we got from that Rosewood Peak to close things out.
Yeah. And then, finally here we close with SOS Dawn, which I think kind of puts a nice bow or ribbon on this show here. To your point, you were talking earlier about a lot of first time showgoers here. I mean, if that's the case, this show kind of gives you about every single type of genre and emotional mood and feeling you can get. So really love how they close this thing down.
Yeah. It looked like an awesome time at an awesome venue. Nothing like partying in a prison yard.
Well said.
No, it's a botanical garden.
They called it out on the stream multiple times. This used to be a penitentiary, so very cool stuff. So lots of shows. The train keeps moving. From there, we go to Goose at the Brooklyn Bowl on June 3rd in Las Vegas. And so I guess I can just go ahead and read this one off if you want, and then we can kind of get into the highlights.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we start off set one, Salt, first time opening into Iguana Song. And then we get a cover of Whip It, Your Ocean, Draconian Meter Maid, The Old Man's Boat, Atlas Dog, and Big Modern. And then for set two, we've got Into the Mist, Dustin Hoffman, Jive 2 into Jive Lee, Bob Don, You Spin Me Round, and an encore of Turn on Your Love Light. So, do you want to start here with set one and just take me through main things that jump out at you on that one, Alex?
Yeah, you got it, man. So, Salt opener. First time, kind of surprising when you think about how just electric Salt is. I mean, it hasn't been around that long, so it's not that surprising, but to see it kind of pop up like this and be like, oh, this is really the first time they've opened with it. Sure enough, it is, and immediate energy blasted into the Brooklyn Bowl. Love it. Love the slotting here. This song can go anywhere, like we've said many times on the show, and I just think it's a perfect opener in this environment. And now I'm just hoping it's the opener to the next album that the band puts out, because it's just perfection in that slot, in my opinion. I kind of just love this first set, so I might just honestly kind of like just read through it at this point. Iguana Song, they still have not jammed this thing out, but it's almost like I'm not like mad at it because it's still fantastic at this like 12-ish minutes. But it almost kind of reminds me of something like a Draconian Meter Maid, or like a Bob Don, or like a Doc Brown, where you can put it in a set early like this, and it's just like an instant bump, makes the show like one notch better, even without the crazy jamming on it. I am waiting for that 20-minute psychedelic jam on this thing, but also like I'm never gonna be mad seeing Iguana Song on a set list. This is awesome, and I love the way it kind of rip roars at the end there. And then into Whip It, like who doesn't like Whip It? Everyone's just doing their fake like whip crack in the video from what I watched. So great cover, good times. Your Ocean was a really, really interesting cool down choice here, but it works great. And then right into the Draconian Meter Maid, weird herky jerky, suddenly transporting you into bliss. Like you're just going on a ride this first set, and then closing out with that run, the Old Man's Boat into Atlas Dogs into Big Modern. Like, whew, that's another ride right there. I will say that the Old Man's Boat, I've always appreciated it, but like there's something about listening to it when it's placed in a set like this where you really come to appreciate that it can serve as this great like cool down song, but also ramps into a crazy ratchet jam like at the end that'll like pick the energy right back up in a room. So anyway, I'm rambling. I want to talk more about this Big Modern when we get to it. Obviously, coming off of Short Atlas Dogs, instant bump of energy here as well for a very long set one. But I want to hear your thoughts before we get into this insane Big Modern.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree. Really great set one for me. Great little jam on Salt starting off. One of the things that stands out about this show for me, for sure, and one of the reasons I'm so high on it, is almost all the songs get at least a little improv at this show. And this one gets a cool up-tempo, creepy little vibe with some like discordant minor runs from Rick and Peter before they pedal back into the traditional crazy emphatic Salt finish. Iguana Song, echoing your points. This is the longest version yet. Still feels like there's a lot more left in that well, but I'm just the biggest fan of that song and whatever they want to play it as much as they want to play it. So super into it, but like you, kind of hoping for a 20-minute jam because it would just work so well there. Your Ocean is just one of those songs where I feel like it's just such a damn well written song and we should just hear it more often. Draconian never disappoints. I think it's like the most consistent mid-length jam vehicle in the catalog right now. It's like this one's like at times blissy and at times like a ballad, but there's all these like creative turns in Rick's phrasing and it sort of like blends into multiple genres for my ear anyways. And The Old Man's Boat is another one like Your Ocean where I just think it should be played more often. I think it's one of the most original sounding songs in the catalog by far. It sounds like a throwback to many decades ago in so many ways, and a cool little funky grooved out jam on this one, even though it's on the shorter side. And shout out to my man Trevor Bass out here dominating pockets. Just awesome stuff there. And then I'll be brief on the Big Modern because this is the most consistent jam vehicle, I think, bar none in the catalog. This one has very cool vibes early on, 2001 kind of adjacent space. I love how much air they create, and yet there's just so much texture as well with all that space. Synth underlays and like dizzying classical piano runs over top with Rick in this like drugged out, fuzzed out tone, Trevor locked absolutely the fuck in with Cotter. And when the pace picks up, Rick moves from support to the forefront and Peter starts throwing in marimba. And it kind of sounds like we're in this like creepy nightclub vibe again. Fantastic peak on it though. Absolutely just stellar close to set one. Definitely my highlight of the show is this Big Modern, but I think anytime Big Modern's on a set list, I probably say that.
Yeah, it's probably getting annoying to people when we say like Big Modern was the highlight of this show or this set, because we
Yeah.
just are like the biggest geeks for Big Modern ever. But it truly is, and I mean it truly is every time we say it, but it truly is in this case for me as well. It's the highlight of the entire show as far as I'm concerned, and probably the best version we've heard at least this year in my opinion. And yeah, you mentioned it. I just want to applaud this jam because it's like it's just such a beautiful, beautiful space they get into. And you mentioned all of the different layers to it. Like it might not sound like a lot is going on from an initial listen, but there's just so much going on. And while Rick is kind of hanging back, doing the rhythm thing and letting Trevor and Peter shine with like some like light keys being sprinkled in and just layering these beautiful undertones. And yeah, the only other thing, I'm not going to get too geeked out into it because this peak is glorious and amazing, and it's another slow build and a beautiful, patient jam here. But I will say that Trevor is the man on this, and some of those back and forth runs he's doing with Rick, where they're like kind of going tit for tat with each other, is just outstanding. I love how cranked up he's been this tour in general, but this was a really, really great highlight for Trev for the entire tour, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know, we can maybe get into this at the end of the show if you want to, but I mean, for my money, at least with the shows that have happened so far, Trevor is by far the MVP of this tour. Like, I mean, it's not even close. He is playing absolutely out of his mind right now on every single song.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's been awesome. Literally coming from All Good Now last night, I could like feel him in my chest the entire night, and it was the best.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into that Dawn here with you in a little bit, but we'll save that discussion for a bit from now. Because this set two in Vegas was also really good. The Into the Miss, it's kind of hard for me to argue with that as a set two opener. I mean, they have so many great ones, but this one is just kind of like a joyful, funky little mix. Um, Rick's got like the wah going like really effectively, and Pete's on the vintage vibe, laying down synth loops. And they've got like this really, really awesome transition, shifting gears into Dustin Hoffman. And the only other thing that stood out to me, they kept the energy up with Jive 2 and Jive Lee. I think that the late set Bob Dawn is also like kind of chef's kiss for me. But I do think it was interesting. As much as I love You Spin Me Round, which I think is just so sick and one of the best new covers that they have in the catalog. I love all the electronic jam potential we've got there. It was interesting to me ending with two covers for the set closer and the encore. But any thoughts you have here on this set too?
I love this set too, and I would normally kind of agree with your diagnosis of the two covers to end the set. But when you're at a venue, and we didn't mention this from the jump, but it looks like they could just blow past curfew here at Brooklyn Bowl, so that they got a lot of extra music out of this show. You mentioned it even earlier in the pod. I don't know if you brought it up, but that led to a lot of these like mid-tier length jams where you normally wouldn't necessarily expect to see this many in a show. A lot of like 10 to 15 minuters, maybe 16, 17 minuter. I'm not looking at the timestamps right now, sorry. But yeah, I don't want to get into the covers part, but that's part of kind of that discussion where they both got jammed out a little bit. But let's go back to the beginning. Into the Mist, amazing set opener. You already kind of said it high level. I don't want to get too into it. I thought this was kind of like, it was a cool groove, but the most notable thing about it comes later, where it went unfinished and then they chose to finish it at another show. So I'll kind of dive into that there because we hadn't seen a finished version of Into the Mist in a long time. But this Hoffman, man, this is the best Hoffman yet, as far as I'm concerned. This is awesome. I mean, what a jammer. I cannot wait to see where this song goes in the future. Like I just caught it at all good, completely different vibe. This is just the best. But really where this set kind of shines for me is just like the quirky song placements from here on out. To Jive 2 and to Jive Lee, you would not expect to see it in this kind of slotting in the middle of a second set. Like oftentimes it's like an encore choice, and I just thought it was really really cool coming off Hoffman. Totally did not see that coming in the moment. And then Bob Don, I really kind of love this as kind of a before the set closer song. Like I wouldn't think of it in that slotting necessarily when I first think of Bob Don, but it really kind of fits when you think about it. Another one of those where it fits the role of kind of like a palate cleanser coming off of a hot Jive Lee. You start off in a cool, slowed down space and then really build into that jam to close things out, that ripping guitar solo, proper width, as they say. And you spin me around. I think this band is secretly an 80s band, and they just got teleported through time because they crushed the 80s covers. And this is no exception. I cannot wait to catch this. Like this is bordering on one of my favorite covers, and it's still relatively new. So I'm here for it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think to your point, this is my new favorite slotting for Bob Don. If I could see it in this slot whenever it pops up, I think it's not going to get any better for me. Until maybe they start doing it all the time and then it becomes expected, then maybe I would change my mind. But this is absolutely perfect slotting. And to your point, yeah, Dustin Hoffman just feels like it is poised to really take off. I think I agree, this is the best one, and it's got like a cool like Eminence front adjacent vibe to it. But just really exciting to see where Dustin Hoffman's going to go the rest of this summer, because it already feels like it's taking exciting left turns when it comes to the improv.
Yeah, because it goes into like that like beautiful like slowed down section on the outro, and then it can just go anywhere. You can go right back up to the high ramped up energy. You can go into a groove, like a funky groove, like we saw here, or we can. It feels like limitless, and
Totally.
that's what excites me about the song. But let's get into this Love Light encore real quick if you want, unless you have anything else to say
Yeah.
about the set.
No, let's hear it, man.
Surprising longer turn on your love light. Normally you expect a 4 or 5 minute deal with it. Now we got a little jam on it, and it got a little dark, and it was really kind of interesting compared to what you'd expect from a love light. So all the love light haters out there, this one's worth a listen.
It definitely is, and you and I seem to attract love light closers for whatever reason. I don't know why, but this is kind of a trend for them in 2025, where they just take encore closers, specifically ones that have never had any darkness thrown on them, and sprinkle some darkness on, like salt or pepper. It's been interesting to me that they seem to have. It's an intentional mindset with them at this point, right? That like 2025, they're kind of just like, hey, let's throw this song we've never played dark at all in the encore and add some darkness to it. It's been interesting.
It has, and I'm sorry I laughed there. You said, for whatever reason, I just imagined Salt and Peppa doing a Turn on Your Love Light cover after you said that. So, yeah, maybe we'll get them on the guest spot here soon.
Anything else on Vegas here before we move on to Phoenix?
No, other than it just looks like an awesome, intimate time. It's just one of the smaller venues they play still regularly here at the Brooklyn Bowl. And man, the pictures that came out of that from like the official post that the band made just looked like a awesome, awesome time. The lights looked insane in there.
Yeah, and I'm a sucker for these shows that are kind of like Utah last year, where it's just a bunch of like mid-tier, no short songs. I kind of like sets like this every now and then. So this is up there for one of my favorite shows of the tour. It's going to be a sleeper for me later on in the year, I feel like still. But
Yeah,
the train keeps rolling on, and we go to Phoenix, Arizona. First time in Phoenix for the band, at least Phoenix proper. And so I'll just read off the set here. We've got Hot Love and the Lazy Poet, Turn Clouds, Time to Flee, The Whales, Time to Flee Again, Seekers on the Ridge Part 2, and then Hunger Site to close out set 1. And then set 2 is Wisteria Lane, Tomorrow Never Knows, Slow Ready, Drip Field, and The Way It Is in the encore. Any high level thoughts here, Alex? Anywhere you want to start, pretty much. It's kind of a wide open set.
yeah. Once again, it's kind of keeping up with what we talked about earlier on, where it's kind of a songy feeling first set, but it flew by watching it, catching up on this show. We're reaching the point of both of us being super sick, so we had to like catch up on these after the fact. But Yeah, it was very songy until we kind of got into that monster hunger site to close out the set, which I think is perfect placement. Like you got everyone roped in with your beautiful heavenly angel baby voice, Rick, and then you're gonna rope us in with the jams to end with hunger site. But my real highlight outside of that is the time to flee sandwich here. I just always love seeing that when it pops on a set. That immediately enhances the show, and this was no exception. Especially coming off of a banger like Turn Clouds, you get into a Peter kind of led banger, great blue vibes, and then mixing it in with the whales as like a burst of energy after that time to flee jam, and then roping it back into that iconic riff is just chef's kiss perfection.
Yeah, definitely. I love the Hot Love and Turn Clouds to open up. I feel like that's a winning combo of energy. The Flea with the three spot, this is another way where sets can really work for me because we're getting some improv kind of very early here in set one. It's more or less just one section of improv, but it's totally and fully developed, and they really take their time in the spacey, loop filled, ambient groove. It really just a lot of patience, but it has a huge peak and segues perfectly into the whales and back again for the Sammy. And I just thought it was a lot of creative set listing and really cool ways to work the improv in and out of the flow of the songs here early on. Seekers was interesting because it only had a very short break before coming back to it. And then to your point, the hunger site. I mean, my God, the first section is really fun up tempo, but this is a patient jam that just keeps adding and building long past the point that you think they can escalate matters any further. And obviously, Rick's playing stands out as it always does here, but Trevor walking in and out and complimenting Rick's lines really struck me. And they hit this awesome, slow, dirgy, dark space with creepy piano lines from Pete and Rick just droning out these like heavy, long, sustained chords before breaking into like some truly menacing lines. And then it goes back into like some more of the We're Off to Kill Monsters music from February. So, what a maniacal end to set one, but just, all the way turned up to 11.
Dude, you said that so well, but sinister stuff going on with Hunger Sight. I feel like if we were taking it back and we were only looking at like the early part of the year, this Hunger Site was like the perfect encapsulation of like the winter tour of like the positive
Definitely.
high energy vibes of it, and then like the darkness all in like one little neatly wrapped package. But we got it here in Arizona, first show in Phoenix proper, and you got to get the darkness to touch Arizona a little bit too. That was absolutely terrific stuff. And yeah, the main takeaway was like, oh my god, this is still going, like, and not in a bad way where it's like this feels like it's dragging. It's like, how is this? How are they continuing to just pile onto this thing? And it was a great time, and definitely one of my highlights of the tour so far.
Yeah, that was one where I definitely feel like I have no problem saying like that was truly a patient jam. Like I know that word gets overused
Yeah,
sometimes, but that hunger site that earned its label there.
for sure.
Starting off though, this set too, this Wisteria Lane was another, at least for my money, another great 15 or so minute version, similar to what we had in San Francisco. Another one where I feel like there was a lot of patience on display, even though it's not as long. Super psychedelic, airy rock space. Cotter's playing just like absolutely outstanding, setting the tone and definitely feeding off of Rick and vice versa. I love at times with jams this year, there's a lot more of Rick going off of Cotter and Cotter reading what Rick is trying to do and accomplish tempo wise. I feel like that wasn't like as present, like if at all, in early Goose, where the rhythm section is having that much of an influence on what Rick is choosing to do, and what Rick is doing influencing the drumming and whatnot. So just love how effortlessly this band is moving together on ideas, and I feel like that was on full display there. And then Slow Ready, I thought that was another interesting part of set two because obviously we've talked at length about all the different ways we're seeing Slow Ready and the ways they can morph it. But I'm glad to see that Slow Ready proper is still a part of the catalog and that we're going to just see that song kind of take multiple life forms this year is kind of neat to me.
Yeah, I love it. I think whenever you can have an opportunity to shake things up and keep people on their toes, even with the song as familiar as the So Slow, Fast Slow sweet. Like you never know which one you're gonna get. I think that's very, very fun. But circling back, you said it pretty well. I feel like they once again they caught a wave and they just rode a vibe through literally this entire set. Like they were feeling like this like airy psychedelic mode, and they just kind of like locked in there, going from Wisteria through the Beatles cover Tomorrow Never Knows, and then even Slow Ready was kind of like a very like chill vibe for that. I think maybe after hearing like the ounce of like a Fast Slow, like Slow Ready now feels like more low key to me too. That's so look
Yeah.
out for the rebrand here because we're feeling the energy lately. But yeah, and then this drip field, man, whoo, goat status potentially. Like I need way more listens, but this Phoenix drip field fucking rules. But I know you have some great thoughts on this drip, so let's get into it, man.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know if it's the goat drip field. It's definitely remarkable. Trevor is an absolute force of nature. I'm probably going to get sick of saying that, but the pocket him and Cotter have allows Rick and Peter to really take their time ratcheting up the intensity, and they bring it down for just a moment, but they time bringing it back up perfectly, and it has just like this amazing, just pure rock and roll finish that I feel like is truly epic. And, honestly, after the excitement and the energy just being kind of like at a 10 the whole way, I feel like a good sing along like the way it is perfectly fine. But I will say, circling back to what you had just said, I actually think the fact that they're still playing Slow Ready proves that we don't need to work so hard on the rebrand. Like maybe we can just press pause on that. I know that you've been like working on mock-up images and new music and things like that, but they're still playing the song. So maybe we can just kind of stick with this for a little bit and see how it goes.
I've been working on nothing. I've been laying in bed, barely speaking. But yes, I finally recovered a little bit to go to the festival this weekend, but it was not fun times. But anyway, no, the rebrand's coming. We'll just change the pod name and like definitely keep people engaged by having a different podcast name every episode, because we also need to work on our Mario Kart rebranding and Lord
Yeah.
knows what else. But dude, all I gotta say is that if you have not listened to this drip field yet, it's certainly like one of the great versions they've ever played of this song. Well over 20 minutes. I forget the exact length of this thing, but some of the best improv you'll hear these guys do as a foursome, taking you on quite a ride. Huge pops throughout this thing, but also some gorgeous, gorgeous chill space as well thrown in there. So it's just quite a ride, and I absolutely love this version. I need to listen to it way more than I have, but I feel like I've already had it on quite a bit.
Yeah, I'll just leave with it's cool to see it take its turn from like its industrial rock home to like a pure rock home, and just to see Dripfield with different colors on it is always nice. I feel like. Any other thoughts there on Phoenix before we move on, Alex?
No, just a really, really fun show. I think that they got a treat for their first show in Phoenix proper, and looking forward to seeing where they choose to take the sets out there, because they've had a weird history out there. I'll say when I look back at the Arizona shows, and this one felt like probably the best show we've seen in that area, in my opinion.
Yeah, they crushed it. Two really good stops in the desert between Vegas and Phoenix. Two really good shows.
Mm-hmm.
But the mini Super Bowl of the week for Gooseland was by far the two nights that they were going to be doing at Greenwood Village in Colorado, just outside Denver. So we know that Goose is a Colorado band. And if you didn't know, you know now, by what we're about to get into here. So
Yeah, you said it. 2 nights, Colorado, Fiddler's Green. Goose is a Colorado band, and night one, man, they just hit the ground running, making a statement like, "Yo, all you idiots who didn't buy a ticket to come see us in Colorado, this is what you're missing. You see all those uppers up there? Fill those up next time." And set one opens with Drive, and then how it ends, the debut of Susie Q, and then Turbulence in the Night Rays, Indian River, into Animal to close out set one. And then set two, we get a tumble opener into Factory Fiction, surprising Factory Fiction, into State of the Art, AEIOU, then Echo of a Rose, into Psycho Killer, back into Echo of a Rose, back into Factory Fiction to close out set 2 with an encore of Arcadia. Where to begin here, Mike? Obviously, like, the entire show is a fucking highlight, so maybe we'll just kind of go through it beat by beat. What do you say?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I can actually be pretty quick and brief with my set 1 thoughts. Um, so nice drive opener, nothing too crazy, but as we were just talking about, when you get these staple songs, these jam vehicles in the 1 slot, I'll take whatever improv I can get, and I love getting, a little bit to start off with. I think How It Ends continues to be one of the stronger performers from the album early on in the year. Just love wherever that song they want to put it. It just absolutely slays, and it just sounds so gorgeous every time. Susie Q, great new cover. Goose is a CCR band now. It's official. I love this choice, and it's a lot of good energy early on. Turbulence and Indian River, I maybe wouldn't have put together, but I actually feel like they flow very well into each other, and awesome seeing the Sanskrit verse coming back. That was kind of a full circle for me because you went into that kind of in depth on our very first episode we recorded. So seeing that come back live, and it was just very, very cool for me. And then Animal continues its run of strong mid-teens versions for 2025, having one of the best 2025s of any song in the catalog. So very solid set 1.
Yeah, this is a really, really strong set 1. A little different than what we had been seeing, where in the lead up to this, there's a lot of very like songy set 1s, I would say, outside of Vegas. But this was definitely catering to this diehard Colorado crowd. Everyone knows that these are going to be special shows, and hitting the ground running with a big drive after there was already a drive there last year that was a monster. Big surprise, and no one's upset about that. Like, getting another huge jammer like this, drive fucking rules. And then How It Ends, we were texting about How It Ends a little bit earlier this week, and like, it's not getting these crazy long versions, but I just absolutely love what they're doing with this song. It's low key kind of like my song of the year, in a sense where like it's just surprising me every time I hear how much I really enjoy this in a set, even if it's only like 3 or 4 minutes of improv and soloing. It's just like the best. And I am curious to see if this ever gets taken for a ride or anything like that, but I'm happy with where it's at now. And when I first heard it, I was just expecting like the 5.5-ish minutes we got when we saw it at the Cap, but now we're getting 10, 11, 12-minute versions of this thing, which is the best. Susie Q, really fun. Obviously they went with the CCR inspired version, but just shout out to technically originally written by Dale Hawkins. The band credits CCR. We got so many messages about that. No idea why the band does their credits the way they do, but we go with what the band says when we do our set list and stuff like that. And this sounds just like the CCR version, so I can see why they're going with that. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about this Indian River moment, because the pop off when the Sanskrit verse came back and the reaction online to it was outstanding. Like, why was this ever gone? It's just so pretty.
Unreal.
Yeah, like everyone lost their shit to it. It was just the best, and I'm so happy to see it come back. It had been a long time since we had seen Indian River in general, and then it just kind of surprised us with the Sanskrit verse on top of it, and the like reggae version of it too. We had been getting a lot of the '80s version, just the best. Let's see more Indian River this year in 2025, please, Goose, because this was low key my favorite part of set 1.
Yeah, best way to bring it back by far. Cannot imagine a better way to do that.
Yeah, yeah. And real quick, I didn't mention Animal, sorry, but Animal has got new life this year. I am in love with it closing out set 1. Love that we're getting Blissy Animals to close things out and end the set on a high vibe. I think it's been really great slotting, and ever since we've seen it in February, I think they've realized they've kind of caught on to something here to put their 2025 print on Animal. And I'm sure people will want it to evolve from this eventually, but I'm feeling it right now.
Yeah, same. I mean, we should have known better when we saw it the way it popped up in Milwaukee on night 1, that we were just in for really great things when it took that hard left turn from where it had been, that it was going to have just an epic year. And it seems like that's just the way it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, here on set 2, this set 2 is in my mind in the running for my favorite set 2 of all time. So again, my thoughts are pretty high level, so I'm just going to kind of run through them real quick and get out of the way for anything you want to dive deeper into, if that's cool, Alex.
Yeah.
I'll be very brief. The tumble is very, very fun, bringing the energy early on. I love the funky pocket they get into, and Trevor Bass just absolutely driving sections almost entirely on his own. Also, quick shout out to Rick is obviously also really aware of the great place that they're in and loving where the band is in general, because I've never seen him moving around or more into the music than he is here. And just in general, I mean, he is just absolutely loving life, and it's great to see. Factory Fiction in the 2 slot has got to be one of the most shocking Goose moments I've ever seen. Full stop. Just totally caught off guard. And then to get this state of the art before going into a Stellar Echo, Psycho Killer Echo back into Factory, where the Factory reprise is literally just truly unhinged. It reminded me so much of Rockdale from Westville and some of what we saw on Winter Tour. The peak on it was just, it would be impossible to scale by the greatest of mountain climbers, and the woo from Peter is always a good sign that they just cooked. So like I said, I think this is in the running for the best set 2 I've ever seen them do. And then an Arcadia encore. I mean, what else do I mean, please go more in depth than me, because it just exploded my brain so much so clearly here that I can only give you high level. This was amazing.
So you mentioning the woo reminded me of something I totally forgot to bring up in set 1. Sorry for the ping ponging back and forth real quick, but we would be like in jail from the fandom if we didn't bring this part up. They brought back the woes section from Drive, from like the early versions of like the 2021, 2022 versions. Had some new lyrics to it too. It felt really, really good to hear this on Drive, and just absolutely another huge surprise early on in the set. So I totally forgot to bring it up on my notes. Obviously, we are still feeling the meds from our sickness or something, because we're scrambled brain a little bit, but had to shout that out. But you're not kidding. Like, that might seem like hyperbole saying that this might be one of the best set 2s ever, but I don't know. I think it's pretty damn great. It's up there. Yeah, you're not kidding. Tumble, because Tumble had such a great 2024, I feel like in 2025 people are just like not talking about it as much, but Tumble is a force that is here to stay, dude. And this is the Trevor Bass show, to your point. Just absolutely outstanding stuff here on this Tumble, and it's like another one of those where the runtime on Nugs and all that says 23 minutes. It feels like it's 6 minutes long when you listen to it. But let's get into the big meat and potatoes of this set. Factory Fiction in a 2 slot, dude. Like, you hear that riff and you're like, what the fuck is happening? Middle of the set? Like, this isn't closing the show. What is going on? And for it to be like this epic, crazy sandwich and this ride through set 2 is just like the most maniacal and incredible set listing ever, which clearly the band loved because they brought this back, and we'll get to that later. But I love this slotting here, and Factory Fiction is welcome anywhere in a set. Obviously, it's people's favorite to close things out, but like, if you're gonna get it in the 2 slot of a second set, like, that's the almost just as good, if not better, because it's more surprising. But yeah, I like that they've been also taking the time on Factory where you have the luxury of, when it's mid set, to be able to take it for more of a ride than when it's like in the encore and you only have a limited amount of time. And there's definitely more exploration going on with this version. This version is really one of those where Cotter took over, in my opinion, and just like wildly was like doing this like tribal thing going on with it, and just was leading the charge on where to take it before we started going into this run of State of the Art and Echo of a Rose back in Psycho Killer back in Echo of a Rose. Like, it was the Cotter show, and he was just leading the charge. Like, there's something about Colorado Cotter. It's just absolute magic. But yeah, Factory Fiction, really the main reaction is, holy shit, this is in the 2 slot, my mind is blown. And then to take it on a seamless segue into State of the Art, like, maybe the best cover they do. Like, I think it's like in almost everyone's top 10 who listens to Goose regularly. just the best. But the main takeaway for me, real talk, is this Echo of a Rose sandwich. I wouldn't consider the back half of this thing Echo of a Rose. I know people do. I call this a Psycho Killer jam. I like. There's like no indication that this is Echo of a Rose to me at all. Coming off of Psycho Killer, but we got the goons in full effect ever since Foie Gras and Crumpoons. Like they're riding the Bisco fever here, and this jam is a fucking bop, man. Absolute club goose going on in Colorado here, and I think this is just the best of what they've done when it comes to like this club vibe so far. It's just another one of those where in the blink of an eye, you've gone from something like Psycho Killer into just a club vibe, and you're like, well, how the fuck did we get here? And why is this the greatest thing ever? Where is Marb Menthol's hiding his rig? So yeah, it's just an absolutely great time. And then I was not expecting the Factory Fiction sandwich because we'd never seen anything like this before. And how am I surprised by this at this point? But yeah, awesome set too. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Clearly the NyQuil is hitting me.
No, you're good. It is a set worth ranting and raving about. And yeah, to your point, I think that the foie gras and crumpets thing, I think, really kind of helped clarify some of the stuff that we had seen as far as the electronical elements, because those had definitely been present in Fall Tour last year. But I think now they have a more congealed sense and like total identity of what they want that to look like. And Cotter with the disco beats and everything, it just feels like more fully fleshed out, and we know a little bit more about what the opportunities and the kind of spaces that they can work their ways into now. Just seems like there's a lot more on the table as far as those dance party sets go. But also, just to your point about Factory, well, and both of our points about how shocking it was to have it in the 2 slot, I think if there's any message to take away or that they're sending us, it's that nothing is static and nothing is safe. So, it will not surprise me at all if at some point later this year we see Factory pop up as an opener of one of a set or something like that, because it just feels like the mission right now is reinvent everything and expect anything. And, that just feels like a wonderfully amazing place to be in with Goose.
Yeah, it's so fun. Like tendencies are made to be broken in this era of Goose, and like nothing, you can't expect anything for too long. They might latch onto something for a couple of weeks and like slot things a certain way, and then it's bye. Here's something else. You're gonna get a flozer now or whatever. Like it's
Oh, please don't bring the flozers back, though. I'm good on that. Not the name, just the slot placement. Just to be clear, I like the name.
Oh
but
yeah, I agree, but like the silver lining is being able to say flozer.
But we do get to say flozer. Okay, yeah, there is that.
All right, let's not talk
So,
about that. It has nothing to do with the show.
Anyways, moving on to night 2, which was also really great. Maybe not as mind-blowing as set 2 of night 1, but really, really cool show here. Get a Your Direction opener, Torero, My Mind Has Been Consumed by Media, A Western Sun, Rockdale, Into Dustin Hoffman, Running Up That Hill, and then the finish to the Into the Mist that we've been waiting for many, many moons. And then set 2, you get a big modern, a fast slow, Creatures, Sinnerman, absolutely jaw-dropping Jed Stone, and then encore of Empress. Once again, Colorado leads way too much to get into, but let's try, Alex. Where do you want to start here?
Your Direction opener, man.
Yes.
This one had a little bop to it. Like it left definitely a little pep in the step here. I don't really know how else to describe it. It kind of felt like it reminded me almost like of an Animal Jam from like 2023 or something like that. Towards the end of it, a little bit of like a fun time to it. Like not where I really would have expected it to go, coming off of the vibe that is the yacht rock vibe that is Your Direction, and then having Torero right afterwards. Whoo, buddy, Torero is like, I have a love affair with Torero. I am obsessed with it, and this might be like a short version of it, but like the song is just incredible, and it definitely holds its weight so far. It's not one of those where you hear it once and you're like, this is the best thing ever, and then you're just kind of like, oh, I was riding the wave. No, this is an awesome tune, and I really hope I catch it this summer. Once again, mine has been consumed by media. Not quite as exploratory as the one we saw earlier in Boise, but hey, still great to see it back here. But really, the other main highlights here is Dustin Hoffman once again got taken for a little bit of a ride. Really, really good time here. Not as much fun as the one we talked about in length from Arizona, but still great stuff. And then the mist closer, closing out the set one, man. And it looked like everyone lost their collective minds in Denver. It's been years, I want to say, since we got a mist closer, right? Like I can't remember the last one we got.
It has been quite a while.
I mean, look,
I want to say it was at least a year and a half.
a year and a half. It looks like, yeah. Wow, so crazy.
Yeah.
Like what a surprise, and like to bring it back from that unfinished version that just happened earlier in the week. That's fantastic stuff. So love that they're still finding ways to bring the hype to Colorado that's already gotten spoiled rotten over the years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I agree with your direction. While it's not a favorite of mine, I have to admit it keeps getting stronger, both in how well and polished they play the song proper, but also the ideas and sections they seem to be able to work into and out of this one. Cool, funky section that's kind of like Delta Jam adjacent for me. Again, the partnership between Rick and Trevor when they're both able to go on melodic runs is really phenomenal right now. I've seen a lot more interplay out of those two, and fun hearing their riffs bounce around and into each other. And Peter and Cotter supply so much stability and backbone that they really find a nice funky pocket on this one that I wouldn't have maybe guessed would go with your direction, but worked really well into the tension builds. I'm with you. I love Torero. Think it works pretty much in any slot. Dying to hear it live. And Dustin Hoffman, man, yeah, it's such a strong contender for most consistent of the album tracks in 2025. This one's not as long as San Fran, but I still think it packs a really big punch. The early section feels like almost cinematic to me, like it came from like an edgy 80s cop movie or something. They've got these droney runs from Rick, and Peter's just adding so much of the ambient space. And then they get this nice little bliss section on it too, where Peter and Rick are kind of circling each other on keys and a guitar that kind of reminds me of the Who in some ways. Honestly, shocking, but the Dustin Hoffman I think is probably my highlight of night two. And then to your point, seeing the miss finished, yeah, absolutely shocking. And yet at the same time when it happened, I remembered that Rick was asked about this in an interview earlier this year about where the finished mist has been. So it was like shocking, but at the same time in the moment I was like, oh yeah, I guess Rick kept that in mind and filed it away for later. So really cool that they brought it to fruition.
Yeah, that I mean that is cool. Shout out to Jive Goose over at AAT. I think he was the one who brought it up, if I remember right. But
Yes, that's
no,
right.
the king of Colorado Goose, Jive Goose. The only other thing I wanted to note, like on top of all this, was we saw this come up later, and it seems like they found something they really like in this Dustin Hoffman into running up that hill segue. And when you listen to like how Hoffman ends, it's just a kind of a perfect fit. Like when you kind of think about it. So also happened at All Good about a week ish later, but just wanted to shout that out because it's interesting that they decided to bring that back very shortly after they debuted that segue in Colorado.
Yeah, they took some things from Colorado that they obviously thought really worked and brought them back around, and it, shocker, worked really well again. Yeah, I love the running up the hill, and I'm just going to use this as a chance to throw it out here. But they should also cover Separate Ways by Journey, also from that season of Stranger Things, because they would smash that. So, anyways, just wanted to throw that out there.
They're waiting for season 5 that drops in like 8 different parts through 2038.
That's way too funny. But anyways, so what do you think here about this set two? Big Modern, Fast Slow, Creature, Cinnamon, Jedstone, Empress. Obviously a humongous set two to end the weekend on. What are your highlights here, Alex?
So I'll keep this very high level because we have a lot. We have a lot to cover like on this episode, so we're trying to keep things like high level, and I think we'll get more in depth on these songs that we're like geeking out about when we get into like our summer tour review and like all that stuff. But we're just trying to like get through all this for today's episode. Big Modern, man, this was a Mario Kart song once again, different vibe for a Mario Kart song, but Big Modern is just continuing to assert dominance as the best jam vehicle Goose has been playing since late 2024, in my opinion. I don't know that necessarily this will be on anyone's best highlight reel, but it's just so consistent. Like, I don't think there's a bad, quote unquote, bad version or like low key version of Big Modern yet. And it's just really great to see it open up a set always. And then the next like 35-ish minutes of the show or whatever it is, the run from fast slow to the creatures to Cinderman, it's Club Goose, dude. Once again, it's not like the goons like we've been seeing a lot lately, but fast slow, man, it's just like it's one of those spaces that you could just dance to, and before you know it, 30 minutes have passed if you're not careful. Flows amazingly into creatures, and then obviously Centerman fits in anywhere you're having Club Goose vibes, obviously, and always is a great emotional jolt along with a dancey song. So I thought that run was just it was really just like, let's just have a good time here. Like, fuck it, we're just gonna dance for 40 minutes straight. And surprise, surprise, close out set 2 with Jed Stone. We had been wondering if or when the song would come ever since Fred the Festival had their set with Visuto, and we saw it there. And man, talk about, you went from like having the time of your life, like feeling like you're in your 20s again, dancing for the entire second set after that Big Modern, and then you go to like weeping, emotional, everyone just in their feels to close out set 2. But I absolutely love this song, and I hope it sticks around because what a special, special tune. And it's up there with some of the most emotional songs that are in the catalog.
Yeah, definitely. Big Modern, powerhouse of a peak. This fast slow, I think this version was the best version of it so far. They get into awesome disco funk section that was built around a chord progression that was very reminiscent of Don't Leave Me This Way for a minute or two. I thought that's where they might be headed. Really fun dance party either way. Creatures was very fun, and instead of the typical dance party, it was actually going into a dark, menacing, borderline thrash metal with piano at points. And then it got into a really
Oh
intense
yeah.
Latin sounding rock breakneck pace jam. That was really, really cool. And then kept the energy up with Cinderman, bringing us back into the dance party from Fast Slow. Jedstone was gorgeous and super happy. I think that it's the wrong placement for it, but at the same time, in this example, the first time you're bringing it out, I think it's the right placement for it because kind of puts like a nice capper on the weekend, and people will always remember catching that as the last song of the set 2 of their weekend in Colorado. So I get it, but going forward, I think there's a lot better slots available for it. That now that the wow factor is gone. And then closing down the weekend with what I was talking about earlier, definitely a trend for 2025. This Empress goes for broke with sinister vibes pretty much right away. And that definitely seems to be a thing, especially for 2-night runs and big shows. Goose wants to end with a energetic song and throw a dark twist on it. So hell of a set too. There's no real place to rest, but great leaving Colorado on this note for sure for me.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ask for much more from a 2-night run like this for sure. And I can't believe I neglected to mention that awesome dark jamming on Creatures, because even though it was still like Club Goose, it was like really sinister and really fun and totally out of left field for a stretch there. And it was one of those like those longer stretches than you'd expect. Like normally you get like a little tension build and it's right back to like the normal fun vibes of Creatures, but no, they kind of stuck to it and really continued to build tension throughout it. So big fan of that version. I got to listen back to that one a lot more.
Same. And so with that, we pick up and we move on for another 2-night stand. Kind of crazy to me that they did these back to back to themselves, but they work really hard. So they headed over to Chesterfield, Missouri, greater St. Louis area for 2 more nights. You want to read off the set from night 1 here, Alex? And we'll get into it.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Back to the factory after a great 2-night run there last year, roughly about the same time too. But we open up set 1 of night 1 with Interlude 2, surprise, into Jive 1, and then Butterflies, get an Atlas into One In, One Out, into True Love Waits, Radiohead cover, back into Atlas, and then get Lead the Way and So Ready to close out set 1. And then set 2, we open up with an Arrow going into Mississippi Half Step, Uptown Toodaloo. Into Madhuvan, and then Dripfield Closer with an encore of Silver Rising. Really interesting slotting on this set. You want to dive into your thoughts, or I can run through some high level stuff here too, Mike. Whatever you want, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton on set one here. I do think it's cool to throw Moon Cabin at us early on in the set. I think Butterflies doesn't pop up enough. I love the psychedelic style jam that it comes with. I thought that the Atlas Sandwich was kind of surprising to me just a little bit. And then True Love Waits, they do a really good job with that song. I think it's gotten better every time they've played it. And then Lead the Way should be played more often. It's a welcome treat, but mostly just want to highlight this So Ready. I know people have feelings about it, but I thought it was intense. The crowd absolutely loved it. And I also felt like Peter spent more time on keys in the jam, which added a little bit of variety to it for me. But I think overall, what stands out to me the most was just that this was creative set listing. I know people could be nitpicky, including myself, but I found the choices of songs and the order and flow they established just worked really well for me.
Yeah, I think whenever you get interesting set listing like this, it can take runs of songs that might not be the most interesting for your personal taste and make it a great show. So I think that's just like another layer of the band just finding the sauce lately and finding a way to keep things exciting. Interlude 2 to open up is just like I never would ever put that on my bingo card, and it's just a really cool idea. Like we've seen a Jive 1 open before, but Interlude 2 to get that opening is pretty unique, and definitely surprised me listening to it live. Butterflies, man, you said it. I don't think it's played enough. I absolutely love seeing this early in a set like this. I love Peter songs, so anytime we can get more of that in the fold, I'm here for it. And then this Atlas into One In One Out transition was actually really, really cool. It's probably the best transition of the night for me. Um, I just thought they did a really cool job with it. One In One Out is like proving itself to be like the ultimate song to like surprise transition into or be transitioned into from anywhere. And it always goes with the cover too, but it just kind of like works. We love Radiohead, so True Love Waits, yes, please. Let's get like You and Whose Army back in the rotation though, please, Goose. Like let's just like do a
Please.
full Radiohead suite, you know?
Yes.
And then they go back into Atlas, and then a surprise return of Lead the Way for the first time in 7 months here as well. Hadn't played that since Cincinnati. Way too many fucking people yapping over this thing. Maybe we can get into that a little bit. And then, yeah, High Energy, So Ready. Once again, it feels fresh with the addition of Fast Slow in here now. It's like you never know what you're going to get. So it's like, I feel like it makes it more exciting even for people who have seen it a bunch.
Like, yeah. And it's just a great set one closer. Set two, though, the improv really kind of kicks up here. Obviously, you get started with the arrow. They've got like an ominous and foreboding space with this, and Trevor is just front and center as he is this entire tour. Eventually, kind of one of the most shocking moments of tour for me, D&B Flamingos Sans Flamingos makes its return. So we get this really cool dark jam with a fiery peak. Works really well and shows once again that arrow functions really well with pretty much any style of jam. But I was kind of shocked in the moment. I'm not sure how you felt about it, how well it worked with what I thought was going to be a one-time only deal from Goosemas, and just absolutely worked perfectly with this arrow.
No, I don't have much more to add to that. I think it's one of those like fun riffs that just kind of can work in a lot of places, and I'm surprised it took this long, honestly, because it's fun, and it really worked in this jam. We got a lot of feedback of like, oh, why aren't they calling this D&B and Flamingos? And my initial thought is you need flamingos for it to be D&B and Flamingos. So it's just the riff, but it's a great time.
It's almost shocking how many people, myself included, did not pick up on that until you said, well, you realize there are no flamingos. And then it was like, well, duh, of course. There's no flamingos here. So you're smarter than the rest of us, buddy.
No, that's not true. Every now and then, a broken clock's right twice a day.
Well, it's a moment of brilliance in my mind. So we've also got this half step returning And much like the last time it was around, it has a gorgeous Blissey start, similar to what we saw on Winter Tour. Really, to what you just alluded to, disappointing amount of talking during the slower portion. And that kind of was a theme here, unfortunately, in St. Louis. But anytime that Goose was playing a slower, more introspective, quieter jam, it seemed like the crowd would just not give them a break. Needless to say, though, they really got into a cool driving space, and then driven again by Cotter's extremely quick, snappy playing, move into this high speed pace we've seen a lot of so far this year. They've got that rapid funk on crack. Trevor just bombs away, and they gradually just strip everything down to mostly just Trevor plucking these descending lines as they transition beautifully into Madhavan. It's literally like one of my favorite transitions of the whole tour so far.
Mm-hmm.
And the Madhavan was really, really good too. Sort of a trippy, spacier one. And it builds up into this rock section that reminds me of some past drive jams. Really fantastic peak. Dripfield, really, really good. And Silver Rising Encore, I feel like was kind of like the first time that the energy descends at all in this show. But this one was kind of a tale of two halves for me. Really, really kind of just interesting and plodding along in the first set. And then set two, just really kind of all gas, no brakes. I just wish the crowd would have cooperated with them when they were building some of these jams up.
I guess it's time for me to get into that part of the discussion here.
Sorry.
It was terrible on the soundboards.
It
like, was. I don't know. Like it's both of us are two like sickos who have combed through like every soundboard and available piece of clean audio we can get from Goose. It's like this might be up there as like one of the 2 or 3 worst I've ever heard, and that even includes some of the footage I've heard of like people like filming in the crowd in like 2016 like a bar. Like
yeah.
I know it was a big party week in general in St. Louis. You had Billy Strings and Dave Matthews Band and Goose all in the same city in the same week, and there's a lot of people there going to see Goose for their first time, I imagine, and it's a social event. But like, come on, the band's playing. Let's be respectful. It's just kind of embarrassing to get those messages because people know we have friends in that DMB circle still, even though we do not go as much as we used to. Just a little embarrassing. But anyway, yeah, let's get into the set too. Sorry, let's not ruin soundboards anymore.
No, it needed to be said. But anyways, yeah, please shut up when the band's playing.
And we call it out when Goose fans fucking do it too. I'm sure a lot of Goose fans were contributing to it too. But like, God, that was annoying to hear. The second set though, man, it's so good. Like starting off with Arrow is always a great time. Even with the B and D and flamingos, whatever you want to call it, even if you're upset it's not tracking on your stats or whatever or on El Goose, it was still there, and it was amazing. And then, yeah, Mississippi Half Step, man. I kind of love that they're doing this. The Arrow and the Mississippi Half Step from Atlanta felt like they were like a team last year, and this kind of feels like its own version for St. Louis, where they had their own distinct vibe that they kind of like are brother and sister together too, which is really, really, really fun to see. But yeah, I really love where they're taking Mississippi Half Step lately. Every time I hear it, I'm like, I want 15 more minutes of this because it's just absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, let's just not talk through it next time, folks. But otherwise, it just an absolutely great time. I really wish they had saved this for All Good now, if I'm being honest, because of all the dead references. I was like, dang it, when I first saw it on the set list. But that's me being selfish. And then going right into that Madhuvan, like that transition was actually really, really good. Like it's not marked as one of those like seamless transitions when it comes to the official set list, but like it's really sick and really slick. And to close out a set two with a Madhuvan Dripfield, like, can you get more of a powerhouse combo than those two back to back? Like, good grief. That probably was. I can't remember what the official set list said, but maybe that was a response to all the talking. Like, maybe if we play loud enough, like we can't hear it. Who knows?
I don't know. By the time we got to Madhavan, that was like the 4th or 5th time it went through my head. This crowd fucking sucks. So it was brutal during Lead the Way. It was brutal during Half Step. I mean, just shut the fuck up. And I know that like this is true of every jam band's got them. You can go to a Billy String show, you can go to a Fish show, anywhere. There's always going to be some chompers in some section pissing people off. But it's really egregious when it's making its way onto the soundboards and you can audibly hear conversations passing through what are some really excellent moments of improv from the band. It's the stuff that'll make you shake your head and grit your teeth. So less of that, people. Less of that. We'll get off our soapbox now.
It really hurt me to my soul during Mississippi Half Step, but it really extra hurt me to my soul during Lead the Way, just because it had been so
So
long,
long.
like 7
Yeah.
months since we had seen it, and like, you know, I have adopted a new puppy since then, so like that just like song just hits me in the feels, and like I'm just like I was so excited to see it come back, and then all you hear is like blah 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 blah. Like these
Oh my
people
God.
don't
Yeah.
know what they're talking through, I guess, but like also like come on. Anyway, we're ranting. Sorry, people.
Old men on our soapbox. We're getting down now. I promise. Anyways, do you have anything else on night one here?
Silver Rising in the encore, surprising, and it actually fits pretty well. That ripping guitar solo at the end, it felt like it had a little extra sauce to it on this one, just because of the encore slotting, and I'm here for it. Always love a Silver Rising.
Yeah, that one and Mr. Action to me are one and the same. They're like 10 minutes, but the solo always rips harder than the rest of the songs in the catalog, and you can definitely close with them and nothing's lost. So I'm right there with you on that. Night two in St. Louis. You want to read this one off? Starts off surprising kind of right away.
A lot of deep cuts on this night too, which I don't know if the crowd deserved all these deep cuts. If I'm being honest, I'm happy for all our friends who got them though, because it's a really cool show. But open up with the Iguana song in set one, then get a flow down, Honeybee, Caution, AUATC, Yeti, and then Everything Must Go to close out set one. And then set two, we open up with Thatch, going into Nights in White Satin, Jeff Engborg, Rosewood Heart, into Spirit of the Dark Horse, into Hot Tea with a Salt encore. So where to begin, Mike? Because there's a lot of exciting stuff on paper to talk through on this set alone, but it was a great show.
Yeah, this is actually some of my longest notes. I mean, not like too crazy as far as like lengthy thoughts here, but Iguana song, first time opening. I love this song more each time I hear it. It works everywhere. Trevor, his presence is so important and vital to it. They keep stretching it little by little, and I hope that I hear it and I'm at the first show that they do take it for a ride, because it just has so much jam potential. We've been saying that since the album. Flow down just briefly. Cool, darker, disjointed start than normal. Keeps it a little bit more exciting and keeps the energy of the set up. AUATC, one of my favorite covers in the catalog. I like seeing Yeti here without the pumped up kicks. It's some awesome funk, which is what we know it for, and some really cool two guitar goose. Cotter bringing that awesome disco style beat. But mostly, I just want to talk about the EMG. It closes out the set one in high style. They've got that slow, spacey rock vibe more or less right away. Everyone is playing like really moody, ominous, melodic, loud lines from Trevor and eerie repeating riffs from Peter on keys. And Rick kind of like sometimes mirroring Pete, sometimes doing his own thing. It's really all just feels effortless, and Cotter's staggered rolling style fits perfectly. It gets into this pretty cool and lively like rock section where Cotter's like perfectly picking up the pace as they crescendo, and they were off a little bit on the re-entry, and Rick kind of made this funny face when they got back on beat to Peter, just kind of like, we got away with that one a little bit, which made me chuckle. But it was a very fun journey with that EMG and a little bit of a different musical space for it. So fun set one.
Yeah, really, really fun set one. You said it, Iguana song to kick things off. That's just a vibe right away, and it feels like it's one of those songs that it's getting, even though the length is not necessarily getting like super long. Like typically we'd see like a song like maybe get like a 10 or 12 minute version, then get a surprise 23-minute version. They're just kind of like adding 30 seconds on or a minute here and there, and it's just like slowly building up. And this has been great to see it, and it's just like evolving and getting better every time, even if it's a compact song. But Flow Down, surprise, great intro to this one. It very a lot longer extended intro, got really dark, really fun. This is what you want to see out of a Flow Down. Explore some new territory on those intros, and yeah, really great time. For as much flack as the song gets, sure seems like it gets a lot of people dancing. So Good times all around there. Slow things down with Honeybee. First time played in a year and a day. It was last played June 10th, 2024 in Omaha before this. So looks like an 82 show gap. And of course, we got Coach on the rain stick on this. Slowed down. Once again, people yapping through the whole thing. But we are Honeybee fans on this podcast, even if it's not the most beloved tune. Let's see. What else I got? Obviously, got to talk about Caution, which is definitely one of my top 5 favorite covers. People smirk at me sometimes when I say that, but I fucking love this cover. And this one got taken for a little ride, too. Got a little bit of a little extra sauce on it. 11 minutes and 43 seconds is the timestamp on it. And really nice to see it get a little bit extended improv here and taken for a little ride before going into one of your favorites, like you said, AUATC. So we were geeking out, texting back and forth about the surprise 2 covers back to back and 2 of our favorites. And then, yeah, I won't ramble too long on everything else, but nice to see Yeti go back to not having the pumped up kicks. Segue, obviously, we love that too, but it's just nice when it's mixed up back and forth and you're not always expecting the same thing. As much as pumped up kicks works, I know people were clamoring to get more of that beautiful Yeti funk back in their lives, get a true jam on it. And this was a compact version, but really, really fun. And then EMG, what a ride it has had this year. Obviously, in February, we thought it might be the song of the year. It's kind of taken a little bit of a backseat from that since then, since the album drop. We're getting like shorter versions and not necessarily as much exploration on this, but this is actually a really, really strong version to add to the list of this year's versions so far. Just really, really enjoyed this, and I think it works amazingly as a set closer here. Very, very well written set list from top to bottom, really highlighting the new songs while getting those deep cuts in there.
Yeah, I almost forgot about the Caution. That one was really cool. It had like some Krungbin vibes to it with the echoey double guitars from Rick and Peter. Very unique space for that one. That's a great call. I'm mad that I forgot about that one. Set 2 though, no slouch. Thatch here in its set 2 opener spot. I really dug this one. Maybe it doesn't break the mold, as much as like Bend or Gonzo did, but really interesting combo from Peter with the 80s sounding synth combined with the clav. Lots of layers and really cool version of that. Definitely want to highlight this Rosewood though. I love seeing it back after the massive Boise because it comes back with like a very standard start, but it's like the musical core of Rosewood is so gorgeous. Who cares? But some great marimba from Peter. Absolutely filthy playing from Trevor, where he's like doubling up on his notes up and down the neck, playing rapidly to keep up with Cotter, who's also going insane. And Rick plays these amazingly beautiful runs as only he can, where it reminds me a little bit of his playing from the end of that gorgeous drip field from St. Augustine last year. And then they come back to the funk that they did in Boise and absolutely rage it out. So really cool how much they mix that one up. Also, this hot tea, I know hot tea sometimes gets shit on because, it can be, a standard package deal, but this one just was very spicy tea for me. The tension builds really packed a punch and it really just closed out strong. And I felt like it was a while since I had seen a hot tea that was that vintage of form as far as just energy, bringing the house down to close out the set. So set 2 was just as strong as set 1 for me.
Yeah, you're not kidding here. Like, it's like I said, when you look at this set on paper alone, it's very impressive, and you listen to how it all flowed together and how they decided to organize it and chunk it up, and it's just like chef's kiss. They're in such a great place when it comes to figuring out how to place these songs and make sure you're maximizing every second of a show. But Thatch, you mentioned Rosewood Heart, so I just want to shout out, this was the first Thatch since the Monster Bend version, and then the first Rosewood Heart since the Monster Boise version. And there's a lot of comparisons going on between the versions. And like, all I'll say is comparison is the thief of joy, as much as we are critics and do that all the time. Like, these are both very enjoyable in their own right, even if they're not as monstrous as either of those versions. Obviously, I got to shout out the preacher rap vibe to Thatch that has been getting lately, like the cheesy synth thing going on. Like, I'm here for it. It works. It's like Goose is the only band in history that can make me listen to that, and like be smiling the whole time. But yeah, it just great stuff. And then Nights in White Satin, dude, making a comeback. This one had not been seen since September 26, 2023. Just another great cover that had been shelved for a while. Shout out to the Moody Blues. Great stuff. Jeff Engborg, always a party. I don't know if there is a song that gets me moving as much as Jeff Engborg, just from like the natural riff of it alone. Great stuff. And then I won't wax poetic on the same points you made about the Rosewood Heart. Really solid version of it. Not super exploratory once again, in my opinion, but like I don't need it to be. I just love living in the world of Rosewood Heart here, and you get a nice 17 minutes of it. Like I'll take that every day of the week.
Yep.
Seamless transition into Spirit of the Dark Horse. That one really surprised me, and I love a Dark Horse, man. It's like every time I hear it, I'm hoping for them to play Thunder because I love Thunder too. But like I will just take Spirit of the Dark Horse because it's such a great tune. And once again, sprinkling in the deep cuts for this crowd that probably talked through the whole thing. But last thing, you mentioned it. The only notes I had was I like the spice on hot tea because it was very spicy. That's literally my notes. So it was a nice, funky, spicy version of hot tea. And then obviously this salt is absolutely outstanding. I wish they had more time on it because it was going into some really interesting directions and like was like pushing for goated status if it had like 5 more minutes to really get fleshed out. But really love what they're doing with salt. It almost feels like it's ready for an absolute crazy breakout here because I don't know that we've gotten a very long version of it. Like I think 17 and 18 minutes is the longest we've seen. But this is one that you could see going for a crazy 30-minute ride if the band was feeling it one day, just based off of this improv alone on this encore version.
Yeah, I think for me it's between Salt and Animal right now as far as like best song out of 2025, like who's having the best year. Those two are just like runaway favorites besides Big Modern, which is always having the best day of any song.
Yeah, no kidding. It's hard to compete with Big Modern.
Large
Modern
does. Yeah, very, very large and in charge Modern. Any other thoughts before we depart St. Louis here for Indianapolis?
No, it just looks like a great run. Really wish we could have been there for it. But the factory looks like a sick venue. And, you know, when I look at the photos of the venue, it looks like a great place to go catch a show. And it looks like hopefully they made a lot of new fans this week with having so many other acts in town for the folks who didn't talk through the whole show.
Yeah, it looks like a fantastic venue that just needs to put up a few more signs when Goose are in town that says "shut the fuck up," and then we should be all set.
Well, you know, if Getty needs help with the programming on the lights, you know how he spells out Goose, we can just do like STFU. Like,
yeah, there you go. Yeah, that would be absolutely amazing. Good Lord.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyways, we'll stop being curmudgeons now, I promise. And we'll move on to Indianapolis, where Goose was at the Everwise Amphitheater. Funny enough, the same place on the same date. And Peter made a joke about it coming on stage that it's a thing now, and they're just going to keep trying to slay it on the same date in Indy. And slay they did. So I'll read this one off, I guess. I can't remember even whose order this is, but we start off with a Rockdale going into a Hot Love and the Lazy Poet, followed by a Turn Clouds, Draconian Meter Maid, Earthling or Alien. First time seeing that in a while. Give It Time, and Animal to close down set 1. And then set 2, kind of a classic Goose set 2, Pancakes, In Your Eyes, How It Ends, and Tumble. The floor is yours, sir. Where do you want to start off? What jumps out at you?
I love this show. It might not be people's favorite show, but like this was a really fun one. And maybe part of that it was like this was like the first show in like a week and a half I felt like decent enough to like sit there and watch the whole thing the night of and like not be like feeling like I was gonna die. But anyway, Rockdale opener once again keeping up the tradition that we've seen quite a bit in 2025 of having a big jam vehicle open up a set with the compact version and get the crowd going. The crowd hanging out in the bar vibes of this song sing along thing is just like the best. And you saw everyone in Indy having a good time early with this. And then, you know, get a Hot Love and the Lazy Poet, Turn Clouds, both outstanding songs as well to keep the energy up. But my main highlight from this set one has to be Draconian Meter Maid, and I know it's we've said it ad nauseum, but like this is my favorite version of it yet. For my taste, obviously, there's a lot of bliss going on with Draconian Meter Maid these days, but man, like this is like the happiest little version of Draconian ever, and like it's just like a Bob Ross painting of jams, just like the happiest thing ever. And I saw a lot of people saying that they heard like Shamalama and stuff like that. I don't agree with that necessarily, but it isn't in a similar space, but it's just like the best. It's one of those where you can't listen to it without smiling. Like it reminds me of the feels you get from what is it, like the mist from the Cap. Not doesn't sound like it at all, but just like one of those where like you just are happy listening to it and you can't leave it not smiling. And then you said it, Earthling or Alien, first time in a while we had seen it. I want to say first time since the Winter Tour, right? Yes, it's Toronto. That great version from Toronto. Wow. 25 show gap on this one. So another solid version here. This one always is fun to get your dose of the best funk Goose can provide. And surprising transition into Give It Time. Like that's one out of left field I would not see coming out of a Earthling or Alien, but it was a fun time. And then once again, another great, happy, blissy version of Animal to close out the set with a huge jump of energy and singing along about monkeys at the dominoes.
As per usual. Um, yeah, I totally agree with you basically on everything you said. The Draconian, I mean, we've said it over and over. It's like the most consistent mid-length jam out there. I really just think that this Draconian in particular is just another example of just how really incredible they are at getting to spots, moving together, communicating effortlessly. And they're just at a new place that I haven't seen them at before, where they're able to find really amazing musical thoughts and execute them to their fullest potential fast as ever. And it just seems to happen in the blink of an eye, with winks, with nods, with quick gestures, and they're just all so in sync. That's really all I've got on that. The Earthling or Alien is always a favorite of mine to catch, so really shocked only the second play of this year. This does what this song does best: extra saucy funk. Love the combo sounds you get from Trevor bouncing off what Peter is doing on clav early on. And it gets more airy and spacey than lots of ERAs, but that's kind of appreciated by me. Right now with Goose, even when they stick close to home, it's still super fresh. And I feel like this is a great example of that, in that it's funky, but it's a new style of funk or a new blend of it. And they really take their times letting these things marinate here before peaking into a rock groove that kind of has slowly been sneaking in the background the whole time. Animal having a tremendous 2025. Some Delta adjacent jamming is what I was hearing. And the salt teases from Rick worked really well later on in the peak, with some great energy to close down set one, as it's been doing really comfortably here in this year. We've been saying it a lot, but really high energy set one.
Yeah, and it's to that point. Like I feel like we say things ad nauseum sometimes, and maybe it's a turnoff, but it needs to be said. Like they've been doing this thing where they're doing like the song year set one, and then just fucking ripping jams at set two, and this was no exception. So hit the ground running with a monster back-to-back set of songs with Pancakes and In Your Eyes, both songs that normally get taken for a ride, it seems, in recent years. And this is no exception, man. The Pancakes was a really solid version of Pancakes. I wouldn't say it was like a highlight reel version by any means, but like, especially after the shorter version we saw Pancakes earlier in the tour, it was nice to see one that got taken for a little bit of a ride. And yeah, it's always a good time when you get a Pancakes jam, man. And In Your Eyes, I think I need to stop saying like top 5 covers, because I think I have like 78 top 5 covers. But like they just kill the Peter Gabriel on this, man. Like it's fucking sick. And then sure enough, just a gorgeous, airy, free-flowing jam, and just like you feel like you're just wafting through the clouds on this thing. It's just the best feeling. It gave me a lot of the similar vibes from the Philly version from last year, the outstanding Philly version that I know you were a huge fan of, even bigger fan of than me. But yeah, great stuff. And then Late How It Ends, like this song is proving it can fit anywhere in a set. I really love it as as a set closer like we saw at Gonzo. It works here also in this capacity. Obviously, this was the right call based off of how much we're going to gush about this tumble here. But yeah, good stuff. But I will let you have the floor first on tumble because this is just like absolutely wild. Like my mind was blown.
Yeah, so I'll just dart around set 2 here a little bit. I love Pancakes as an opener, second longest of the year behind Toronto. I really, really thought that this was a fantastic rock progression that they get into. And the Blissy outro just absolutely nails the transition perfectly into In Your Eyes, which first time seeing this since the Armory in Minnesota for this cover. Really cool, disjointed, feeling funky pocket they get into with Cotter using that signature broken up rolling style. Trevor and Rick doing a lot more of that where their riffs intersect and mimic each other at times, flowing in and out effortlessly. I just love how much they're communicating musically right now. They kind of cut that one a little short. How it ends, still sounding incredible. But this tumble, man, you said it. You were kind of shouting at me and pretty much everyone about how amazing this tumble was right away. And man, it's really great stuff. Super up tempo funk, as is commonly the case, but this one they bring in a lot more of the electronic elements. We're full on uncing it up here. Yeah, that's been present both on the album and in the first 6 months to a year of live performances that we've had. We're fully in that disco biscuit territory. On top of this, it's 2 guitar goose. So when I say the amount of layers here, I really can't, enunciate that part of the sentence hard enough. There are a lot of layers going on. Absolutely in your face dance vibes, but this one, as far as songs where I'm going to tell you absolutely in your face dance vibes, I think this one may have the most re-listenability because of those layers. There's a lot to appreciate on re-listen and multiple re-listens with this one, and yet it's still just so much freaking fun. And Arcadia Capper, that's always just going to be pure perfection. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at here on this set 2 and this tumble.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Real quick before we get into tumble, I will shout out one last thing on how it ends. I think that this was probably the shreddiest Rick version of how it ends we've gotten so far, and just a totally different vibe from this tumble. And you said it, man. Full on goonts, as they've been saying on Blue Sky. Shout out to Neil. He has the funniest fucking picture I've seen. I think he's making stickers, which I want one, Neil, if you listen to this. But this tumble, man. Rick's hitting the digital fuzz on this thing early on. Trevor's holding things down. He's feeling it so much. He's doing a shoulder shimmy, and like probably like 12 minutes into this thing, I don't remember when it was. I just texted you. I was like, if this thing goes on like another 10, 15 minutes, like it wouldn't be my personal, but like this thing could have like had GOAT status. Like people would be talking about it because it was just like so unique and so good. But it was very short, and I think in its favor because it's short, it is probably the most re-listenable song of the year. To your point you made earlier, like you can listen to this thing and knock it out in 15 minutes, and it's just like a good time. But I'm not sure about how many people are going to respect the jam on it because it's not long enough, unfortunately. But yeah, Peter went back also during this thing, and he found like that like 80s like beep boop bop boop arpeggiator thing he was using a lot in the fall last year. Just brought it back here, and they hit this crazy portion towards the end of it, and it might be like the drop of all drops that we've ever seen Goose do, especially in this like space. But like, holy shit, man, what an ending to this tumble. Like I said, I wish it was like 10 minutes longer because it would have been like in the conversation, I think. But truly terrific stuff. I said it about the that Psycho Killer jam in Colorado, but this one's up in the conversation for like the best of the electronic dancey vibes we've heard so far. The Goonts.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on Indianapolis here?
I was going to say Arcadia, always great as an encore. Obviously, they had time constraints and a hard curfew here. This is only like a 7-minute version of Arcadia, but we'll take it where we can get it. Like even in the short amount of time you have, it still is a huge jump of energy and a crowd pop.
Yeah, definitely. I will never be able to pick a song better than Arcadia to end a show with. So after that, we were supposed to have Goose at Bonnaroo, but of course, Bonnaroo was tragically canceled by weather. So again, shout out to anyone that was out there. I'm sorry, that really sucks. There's no bigger of a bummer than putting money into travel and all the effort and then it gets canceled. So the next show after this was Goose at All Good, which unfortunately I was supposed to be at, but last minute could not. Alex, you were there. So I don't know if you want to give us your thoughts overall on the festival, and then we can kind of work our way into the set list.
I want to clarify that the medicated up shell of Alex was there at the festival compared to my normal self, but it's still an amazing time. I'm not a festival guy typically. Like I I don't like the extra layer of crowds and long lines and stuff you get at like a normal festival, but this was really great. Like I think that Merriweather did a great job for hosting it for the first time. It's obviously not going to capture the old all good vibes of like the camping fests and all that stuff, but like I think that they made the most of it. Especially the vibe over by like the chrysalis stage in the corner of the venue was like really cool and felt like very very like intimate while also being able to host the big crowds. um, and obviously Goose has some history on that stage too, some epic history on that stage. So really cool to see him headline this fest, and it was a good time. Got to see a lot of folks, say hi, and um, yeah, it was just a good time, even with the rain, even with like not everything being the most perfect sound wise. I mean, there was a point on day two where Eggy rocked so hard that like the PA went out for a minute, and everyone was just like rocking out to like listening to like just what they could hear from the stage monitors from Eggy. Like it was pretty great. And
Amazing.
yeah, and then you get to see our favorite band to headline the whole thing. Amazing.
Yeah, no, everything I've seen online, everyone says it was a very well run festival. Definitely glad to see it come back in such style without, too many hitches in the processing of everything. So let's get into it. So I'll let you talk about it after we read this off here. We've got Goose's headlining set starting off with Salt, Your Direction, Same Old Shenanigans, which is a little bit misleading, but we can get into that here in a second. Redbird, Dustin Hoffman, Running Up That Hill. And then set two is Dripfield, This Old Sea, Factory Fiction, Hollywood Nights, Fast Slow, Factory Fiction to close it all down. So wherever you want to go, you were there. I was not. Let us hear your thoughts on this set here.
Dude, quit putting the salt in the wound, pun intended. Opening with Salt here, second time. Uh, this felt like it was surprising for a set list for like the festival environment for me. I don't know about for everybody else, but it feels like they cherry picked like some of their favorite things they did on this early first half of the tour, and then just kind of like shoved them all into the set list, which is kind of cool to see. But starting off with Salt immediately, you're like anyone who was potentially sitting was already up early, and really high energy, ramped up version to get things going. Like short version, even compared to some of the ones we've seen that have been like time constrained in the encore and stuff like that. But this just wasted no time getting right up to the high energy headbanging Salt that we know and love. And then we get Your Direction early, but not opening. This was a nice little version of it. It felt like it was more like okay. I know we start off headbanging, but we're still a yacht rock band. We'll ease into this set list a little bit here. Rode that out for a good minute, and I think that a lot of the crowd was vibing with it in our section, at least. Like a lot of swing and dancing going on. But yeah, you mentioned this. It's labeled as SOS into Dawn on the boards. It's labeled as just SOS on El Goose. This is definitely just it's a little like bit of SOS and it's Dawn. It's like 20 minutes of Dawn or something. Let me pull up the exact times. 18 minutes and 21 seconds of Dawn. And 2 minutes, it's listed as 2 minutes and 46 seconds of SOS. And it's truly just like the instrumental outro portion that you get of SOS that leads into Dawn. They just kind of went right into that and then played Dawn. Like not a single word of SOS was spoken. So like I don't really know why it was just credited as that. But anyway, wow. Getting a jammed out Dawn is a treat, dude. Like that's like already the best part of the song for me, and like being able to just like sit there for 18 and a half minutes of it is just the greatest thing ever. My wife, that's probably her favorite like jam of the night, I would say, is this Dawn, and just an all out dance party on this one. It took you for quite a ride, and the time flew by this first set, like where you're looking at your watch and like, how has it been 15 minutes? It felt like it's been 30 seconds.
Yeah, no, I mean this whole SOS Dawn thing was very interesting. Me and my girlfriend were listening to it earlier. It felt like you almost got like a fraction of a verse without any singing on it. If you like tried to sing along, there was like the opportunity to sing a verse, but Rick's not singing. And then most of it will just all seem to be like an instrumental partial version of SOS to set up this Dawn. But the Dawn was very cool to me because it didn't do like what we saw in like the last Dawn that got stretched out, where it was just kind of like, heavenly blissful dance vibes, just nonstop throughout. This one felt like it was more like a dirgy rock thing at first, and it was just kind of I wasn't expecting Dawn to make it to that musical territory, and it was just very cool to see it kind of occupy a little bit of a slightly different space, to your point, like keeping the dance party going but in a different sort of way and vibe.
Yeah.
Really neat and unexpected here early on in the show.
Yeah, and that's something that I think that it's funny. Like ever since our hot takes episode where we said the patient thing, now it's like there's been a lot of jams that I feel like are really good patient jams where Goose is like, to their credit, they're locking into what they find as like a very solid space to be in, and they just like latch onto it and then stick with it, and it's just working. And where it wasn't working as much for me in the past, it's like really working for me now. So like I'm just like hypocrite Alex over here because now I'm like, let's just talk about patient jams. And this was fun. Like it doesn't have like all the substance in the world of like the craziest jam you could break down, but it's just a solid, fun dance party, and like almost like one of those where you get in a trance and you're watching and you're just like looking up at the stage, and then you suddenly realize like, oh my god, like the set's almost over. It feels like 20 minutes have passed.
Yeah, definitely. And this was, I mean, to be fair, I think the set one, you can correct me if you feel differently, but it was a little bit light on the improv. I mean, after that, you've got a rather shorter Redbird, which has kind of also been a theme of 2025. Dustin Hoffman and running up that hill here to close things out.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts here on the rest of this set one?
Redbird, it was a short jam, but it had like a really cool like groove to it, I would say. Especially compared to like Spokane, which we had just seen before, where it like didn't get jammed at all. It was at least like a really cool like segue, almost like going into like a trippy space to slowly build us to like the most unexpected transition into Dustin Hoffman ever. And it's a really slick one. Like we were listening back on the ride home this morning, and my wife was like, "Man, that was slick! Like that was fucking cool. I totally forgot about that." And yeah, we talked about it. This Hoffman was fun. Obviously, not the longest version in the world, but you got to squeeze in Dustin Hoffman for the crowd, man. Like, come on. It had been a minute. Great song. I was very pumped to see it. And they clearly loved that segue into running up that hill that they had in Denver, so they brought it back. And the crowd absolutely, probably the biggest crowd pop of set one, honestly, was when they started that cover. It's well loved. Like, take it or leave it if you're not into like the cover closing out the set, but like clearly the crowd was super into it, so I can see why Goose leaned into that.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt that like Rick can actually sing that song like borderline perfectly. So whether it gets a jam or not, it's just going to be a well executed cover either way. And there's a lot of nostalgia, obviously, with that song that people were going to get really into.
Oh God, yes.
However, I feel like this set two, I think, is going to take us a little bit to break further apart here, because we've got, Dripfield, This Old Sea, Factory into Hollywood Nights, Fast Slow, and Factory. So a little bit of those Colorado vibes for you over there at the All Good Festival. Let's kind of unwrinkle this. What are your big thoughts here on absolutely monstrous set two?
They do call Meriwether Post Pavilion the Colorado of the East Coast. I heard.
Now they do.
No, I mean Dripfield, man. Second time ever opening a second set, and just outstanding. Like how this has not been done more, it blows my mind. Absolutely getting right into that like tribal Tom's heavy absolutely incredible Trevor bass jam on this one. And like it just once again, like Salt did in the first set, Dripfield is a totally different sound and vibe. But once again, you immediately have that burst of energy and the hype coming off of a set break where sometimes you might lose some of like the excitement the crowd had. I think this is an absolutely brilliant choice, especially in a setting like this where not everyone in attendance is necessarily a fan just there to see Goose. I was shocked, honestly, with the choice here, but in the best kind of way.
Yeah, definitely. And Dripfield kind of moseying a little bit back to the space it was with that industrial rock groove that we've seen it in before. It last few times it's popped up, it's kind of gone on these different types of excursions, but kind of cool to see it going back to where it's been in a comfortable home for a little bit. Short This Old Sea, in a way, with the different versions of This Old Sea that we've seen over the last year. Kind of cool to see This Old Sea going back to like one of its old roles of just being like an actual like cool down song. I mean, I hope it still keeps doing some of the nice, interesting left turns that it's been making this year, but it worked really well in this location. And then I'd be interesting to get your thoughts on this. I think for my ear, anyways, at least upon first listens of the soundboards a couple times this morning, I think this initial section of Factory is actually better than the first section of Factory in Colorado. I think it's a more well fleshed out idea. I think it's more fully formed. And I think the transitions between the ideas are more well rounded and connected than the ideas that they had in the first part of Factory in Colorado. Now, if you want to say that the second part of Factory, which we can get to here in a second, I maybe would say the chaos of the Colorado version is a little bit better, but this first like 15-minute chunk of Factory, I like the All Good version better.
I think that they're like cousins. They're very similar the way that they jam them out. I mean, I'm gonna have attendance bias, so I'm gonna say the All Good Now version I really enjoyed. Obviously, it's Factory Fiction. I'll take it where I can get it. And when it's jammed out and you get 22 and a half minutes of Factory Fiction on the fucking first part of it, like, forget about it. Like, that is outstanding. A song that we've often come back to and said, like, because it's in the encore slot, like, they only get 12 minutes out of it. Like, we want to see this thing jammed out. We are getting that with this slotting. But real quick, before we get too much into the weeds with the Factory Fiction and all that, I did want to talk about This Old Sea. Beautiful cool down song. It definitely felt like a nod to Father's Day. That was shouted out often throughout the day by the bands, and this felt like Goose's little nod to Father's Day. So it was a really nice moment, really sentimental moment, and I think the crowd really appreciated it. But coming off of that and then getting a mind blowing Factory Fiction, it's like it gets overshadowed a little bit when it's that slotting, but not like because it was a bad choice or anything like that. But yeah, like very, very similar concepts to the Colorado. That was a very astute point by you, Mike. But like you get like that like muddy, hazy, like nasty, kind of like trippy, super like layered jam through this thing, and it's just like you're lost in it, but you're like lost in the haze, but you're also just like thrilled to be there. I don't really know how else to describe it. And there's a huge slow build to this insane peak that they're building to, because they know they want to get to Hollywood Nights, but you don't know that you're going there until after the fact. So like in the midst of it, the chaos, you're just like, what is happening here? But it was a really, really cool groove that they built up to, and then got into Hollywood Nights, which was just a totally unexpected surprise. And once again, one of the 58 or whatever I said top 5 covers Goose does, because the song is just the best.
Yeah, and then you get another Fast Slow
Mm-hmm.
and another reprise of Factory to close things down here. So, what are your thoughts on the Fast Slow? Now we've heard it a few times. You've got a few versions to pick from. What are your thoughts here on these last two pieces of the set list?
I love Fast Slow. It's not one of those that necessarily explores a lot compared to what other jams that we hear. But it's one of those where, once again, I think I said this like 5 times today, so I'm sorry, people, but it's like one of those where like you look down at your watch and it's like 10:32 or whatever, and you're like, oh sweet, got another half an hour of music, and then in the blink of an eye, it's like you've been dancing for 20 minutes, and you're like, oh my god, the show's already over. Like, I absolutely love love the fact that they wanted to mix it up, and this was just like Club Goose at its finest. Cotter has really been able to take this like electronic goons, everyone's calling it, vibe, and like do like the slow like thing, like the builds and the peaks, and it's just working for me. And to find their way back into Factory Fiction, I don't know why I was surprised by them coming back to this. I'm just an idiot when it comes to these sandwiches. Like, I don't ever see them coming. But that was a nice thrill and a great way to cap off the festival. And you saw a lot of people with like the Cobra, like hands on their head, like what the fuck just happened here? This is an incredible night. After the show was over, no encore, but I think maximizing the music was worth it.
Yeah, definitely agree. And to be fair to you, I mean, factory sandwiches are a fairly new thing. I think even though you and I may be a little bit slow on spotting the sandwiches coming, I think everyone can give you a little bit of grace for not seeing a factory sandwich coming.
Well, after like the 20 minutes of it, I was like, oh my God, like there's no, like, I just was like, they're going to close this thing out on like the coolest fast, slow dance vibe ever. And then no, back to factory. Love it.
Doesn't get any more lucky than that. So, I can't think of a more fitting way to close down their, first time headlining this, festival that's kind of coming back from the dark. And I think like giving everyone that made the trip out there and the trek out there for this, first, I don't know, re-inaugural version of this festival to close with like maybe one of the most iconic songs in their catalog, a song that a lot of people are chasing, just makes all the travel and effort to get to the festival and to prioritize the festival all the more worth it. So I can't think of a better note to close it down on. And I think it's also really cool that maybe we'll see more of this throughout Goose's tour and throughout Fall Tour as that gets kicked off, where they try something really huge and ambitious like they did with the set list in Colorado and see how well it works, and then transport part of that to another show down the line. Hopefully we get a lot more of that.
Yeah, I really do hope so. I mean, obviously, like going through the socials and seeing the feedback, like people aren't thrilled that things are getting repeated, and like, they're keeping a lot of the songs in the rotation, but it's like it's good songs and people everywhere want to see these things. So like it's okay for them to sprinkle it in every now and then. Like people saying like, why would they play Factory? People saying like, why would they play Factory Fiction at a festival or whatever? It's like, this is a lot of people's only show of the summer in this like DMV area of the country. They didn't know about the Man Show that's popping up in October. Like a lot of people from this area, this is the only show they could get to. So it makes sense that they would serve a very, very popular area with a set list like this.
Jam band fans can be the worst. Anyways, if you're going to complain about Factory, I'm just going to tell you what I told the people in St. Louis that were talking during Jam. Shut the fuck up. Anyways,
but no, if they do All Good Now at Meriwether again, I would be back there in a heartbeat. It was a great time. Like we had so much fun. We caught pretty much everybody. Had an amazing time night one with J-Rad and String Cheese. We absolutely love String Cheese. My late father-in-law was a big fan, so this was Sarah's first time seeing them. We had a blast, and then obviously capping things out with Goose and catching Eggy and Daniel Donato and Pigeons, and everybody was awesome. So we missed you, buddy.
Yeah. I wish my tooth hadn't broken half, but that's what happens. So super jealous of the show that you guys got, but also like extremely happy that you got to take this all in. Definitely thank you to everyone out there that's still managed to listening to us at this point. This was a very long episode. We don't intend on getting sick at the same time again in the near future. So hopefully we won't be doing a recap this long anytime soon, but we will be back next week with 4 more shows to recap for you.
Yes, we will. And we definitely do not plan on getting sick like that again. That was the worst. Don't wish that on anybody. And if you feel like we underserved some of the jams or the songs you wanted us to dive more into, I am sure we'll get to more of these later when we do more recaps through the year. We just wanted to make sure that we touched on everything just a little bit here in this 2-week stretch of just outstanding shows. Really looking forward to the rest of the summer tour.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, y'all. We'll see you next week.
Take care, everybody.